Wait on sin, wait on sin. Hello, welcome to week 2 of Giving Life, Creating Life. Great Spirit, I ask to be a vessel for this understanding. I ask that all we need to know in order to equip ourselves with the most present potentials for ourselves come through. I ask that we are able to honor our bodies and the bodies of the birthing people we support in this process, in this understanding, in this moving toward our remembering, our educating ourselves in this way. Okay, so we have so much to learn about the spirituality of conception, of calling in life, of creating life. So we're just going to go right on. Please look at the spirituality of conception and read along as I explain. When my womb started doing the biological longing that I've heard many womb carriers speak to, and I didn't have any plans or a partner to conceive, my mother simply said, "Mijita, the babies come when they're ready." So that was a big one for me. It took away my own personal agency and gave it to spirit, gave this permission of a higher force, my child, my potential starseed, to come through. It wasn't my choice. It was something greater. So here we go. 1, babies choose when to come from the spirit realm, the stars. 2, they choose who they come through. 3, they choose their circumstances. 4, all of the above help their souls move toward their soul's journey toward enlightenment. 5, each time a soul is reincarnated, it has the opportunity to move closer to its soul's purpose. So I'm going to stop there for a moment. In my belief system, in my spiritual belief system, we are travelers. We are interdimensional time travelers. And we come from the stars. And our bodies, these are just our meat suits. These are just our bodies in this time. But our souls are on a complete whole soul's journey. And our souls have been here many times. Some of you are familiar with the notion of past lives. That is what this is our soul's journey through different bodies to get to our soul's enlightenment or nirvana. And the soul's journey has to do with the contract between heaven and earth, because as we come incarnated in this lifetime, in this body, there are certain movements, there are certain lessons, there are certain callings we have to complete in order to move on to the next piece of our soul's journey that may be in a different meat suit, in a different reincarnation. So I believe that babies choose how they come and when they come because the soul needs that circumstance, those parents, that situation in order to move through the lessons, move through the teachings that will lead them to the next part of their soul's journey. So for example, when I was pregnant with my son, about 5 to 6 months pregnant, I was at a backyard house party in the summer, and somebody's like, "Can I tell you something?" I said, "Yeah." And they said, this one's been waiting for you for a long time, talking about my unborn child. And I felt that, I always knew that I was supposed to bring light. I was supposed to give light. I was supposed to have another energy that was not mine come through me. I've had dreams of being a mother since I was very, very young. And so I knew that was true when she said that in a spiritual sense. Okay, so when it comes to different babies coming through and the circumstances they come through, I believe that they choose that. And we are just offering. We're just offering ourselves as the vessels for this coming through. Okay. Number 6, babies come in times of great need and times of great love. So I saw that as an offering through one of my friends' speaking of her experience with a miscarriage. And it was very heartbreaking, her miscarriage, but it was what she needed to move past an abusive relationship. The baby didn't stay. And when babies come, when souls come through, they might not be here to stay, but they come because we need them to come to shift something, because it's such a primordial shift if we give that attention to it. Also, babies come in times of great love, when we least expect it, when our hearts are open, when our wombs are open, when our heart space and our womb space connect and life can enter. Yes, there was something else I wanted to say here, but it's not coming through, so it's not meant right now. All souls come to teach us lessons in both the material and spiritual realms. So that's feeding off of what we were just talking about, that a baby coming through is for lessons. When our children teach us things, they are teaching us life lessons that we need to know. But that starts happening as soon as we start calling them. As soon as conception happens, there are like, whoa, life-changing moments that start defining who we are differently and defining our life trajectory differently and our life paths. 8, conception is a divine act always. So this one can get a little much, because what about rape, right? So to be personal, straight up personal about it, when my mother's mother died, I found out that she was the daughter of rape. And when my mother told me, my grandma was my best friend. And all these things made sense to me. Like, I was like, oh, like, she made sense to me. The jing that she was bestowed upon in whatever went down with her parents, having given her certain characteristics that were unspeakable characteristics, all made sense to me when I found that out. Like, I knew her better. I knew her isness better. And being the daughter of conquest, being the mixed blood progeny of the Spanish conquest on indigenous peoples, many different indigenous peoples, there's so much rape that lives in my own lineage. And I believe I'm a miracle. I believe that I came here at this time to do sacred work, and I would not be here if it were not for that rape. I'm not condoning rape. What I am saying is that life is sacred, and when life creates itself, it is sacred. There is in your living resource sheet an article about when the egg finds the sperm, there is an electricity that happens that sparks. There's like a spark. And one of my medicine people friends and I were talking about it, that the frequency of the sperm has to match the frequency of the egg. And when it happens, there's this spark of life. And so to me, whatever is going on within people's spiritual, specific, social spaces, the frequencies to create life happen in a way that is unique to that circumstance that creates life, that creates humanity. And I believe that it's always sacred. I'm interested to discover what you think about that. Our children come to be our greatest teachers, so they're always teaching us things about ourselves, about the world, reminding us about the sanctity. Children are so innocent, even if, no matter where they come from, no matter who they come through, they have propensities and they have personalities in the womb. And when they come, they show us what we've forgotten. They show us what we never knew. They show us what we did know but needed to be reminded of. Our children, all children are such great teachers to us in this time, in all times. The inability to conceive is both spiritual and physiological. We'll talk about that soon. I believe that our physical selves must be in alignment with our spiritual selves for conception to happen. And if conception happens when we're not in alignment, it is to show us alignment. So when we want to conceive, we need to take into account all the different parts of us, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, and physically. And we'll get into that next. And then surrendering to the great is the most powerful medicine. We must trust the great mystery. So an elder woman told me once before I conceived that when she wanted to conceive, she went to her depiction of the Divine Mother and said, if it is in your favor, if you choose for me to be the vessel of this divine life, I will humbly accept that. And if it's not your choice, then I will accept that. And that night she felt herself get pregnant, and the next morning a necklace she was wearing picked up a rainbow and it spread everywhere, and she knew she was with child. It was her miracle story. The point there is the surrender of receiving what is meant for us, which is a very spiritual act that involves faith and involves trusting our role in the divine mystery. All right, so I'm gonna move right on to choosing our star seed, when we do choose our star seed, and what that looks like in a ceremonial way. So once again, spontaneous conception. Babies come in times of great love and times of great need. When babies come, they choose to come. Babies come when they want to come, and babies come to change our lives. Whether they stay or they don't stay, they come because we needed a check. We needed to feel the power of life. So I want you to hold space for the power of life, especially if we're people who are full spectrum doula types, and we want to honor death as well. We want to honor the lives that don't stay, whether it's chosen or not, the termination. These lives come to remind us of our underpinnings, remind us of what we're here for, because that is the power of life. Everything will be different. Everything will be different. I spoke recently to someone who was debating on whether or not to keep a pregnancy. And Spirit came through so clearly that regardless of whether you have the baby or you terminate, you're still going to feel the effects of that. From a traditional midwifery standpoint, we treat miscarriages and abortions, we treat losing a fetus as a full birth, and we treat the postpartum body the same, because your body immediately starts to change upon pregnancy. And so you have to do the closing of the hips, the cerrada, you have to do the herbal care, you have to do all of these different things as well to have a complete healing of a postpartum body, regardless of how and when the life leaves. So everything will be different. You're going to be different on a spiritual level. You're going to be changed if you are someone who feels that and sees that, as opposed to denies or compartmentalizes it, as the society has taught us to do, specifically with life. That's a whole other video. Okay. We get these deep soul lessons. I had a patient who came in pregnant, and she was not expecting it, and it was not good timing, and there were all kinds of other things. And when I put her on the table, it came through really strongly. There was a specific ancestor that was trying to come through. And when I told her who showed up, she's like, oh, that's no good. That's not good. And the ancestor was like, no, I'm not supposed to come. I'm not supposed to be here. This is the only way you'll listen. So for the only time this has ever happened to me, I, without judgment on anybody's choices, or myself, I was like, the spirit's like, this ancestor, you're not supposed to have this baby. You need to go to the hospital and figure it out. I didn't see her for a year plus. And then I ran into her randomly one day. And she told me, thank you. You saved my life. I went to the hospital and they told me I had an ectopic pregnancy. And if I wouldn't have gone, I would have died. And so I couldn't see that, right? I didn't know that. That's not my expertise to like feel around and be like, oh, this baby is implanted in your tube as opposed to your womb, and that could cause death. But the energies of the ancestors that came through had very specific reasons for coming through to awaken her in a way that she had not been awakened, and that baby was not supposed to stay here. And therefore we're like, okay, go and release this life. They come for lessons, okay, whether they come to stay or not. And sometimes those are life and death lessons, okay? All right, conscious conception. What is conscious conception? It's when we choose, when we say, you know what, I'm ready, I want a baby, I've been called, I had dreams, I know I'm supposed to be the steward of this life, I'm supposed to be the vessel here, I feel called. And so in conscious conception, there's a mutual yes, that you have to say yes. And it's not enough, in my experience, for it to just be a yes. It has to be a yes that is grounded in a why that is in alignment with your highest truth. So some people have come to me and be like, well, my wife wants a baby, so I want a baby. Or I'm scared that I'm too old, I need to hurry up and do it. Or I want to keep this partnership, so we should have a baby. And those are not in alignment with the truth of the human, or both humans, if you want to consciously conceive. So anyone who comes to me asking for fertility help, at times hard stuff comes up. I've been led to have people say, I give myself permission to be a mother. Like they consciously want it, but they're scared inside. I've had a patient who had 2 miscarriages with female-bodied babies, but had a live birth son. And Spirit showed that because of her upbringing in her environment and the way women were treated in her environment, the belief system was that it was unsafe to be a woman. So we had to work on that belief system, that underlying unconscious belief system, before she was able to carry to term a female-bodied child, which she eventually did. After she stopped seeing me, I sent her to one of my old friends who is an Ayurvedic practitioner working in fertility with herbs and diet, and she got pregnant and now has a daughter. So that was also a really beautiful understanding of the spiritual underpinnings of why or why not we steward these lives through. So we need to know our why. I have also had non-cis hetero partnerships come seeking help on getting pregnant. So we'll talk about the female-bodied, how we look at a female body, and how we need to nourish it in order for it to be the most optimal for creating life. But ceremonially speaking, they're everyone on board, in my opinion, and what I've advised these humans to do is that get everyone on board. So if you need a sperm donor, choose that person and say, hey, we want this life. Or if you don't want them to be in the life, you can go to a sperm bank, but bring it in this ceremonial way, and use it in this ceremonial way. Connect with one another, and when you have your sexy time, your conscious co-creative time, you call in that spirit while using the sperm in the ways that you want to administer it. I've also talked with couples about maybe all coming into the same home together and having the sperm provider in the next room or in the same room offering that in a ceremonial way. I've actually only worked with 2 females wanting to reproduce with sperm donors. I have not yet worked with males, male-bodied humans or sperm offering humans in that way. However, being a ceremonialist, I want all parties involved to be in alignment with one another's energetic yeses, and in alignment and in clarity and in agreement with everyone's yeses, regardless of who's involved. I also extend this to any medical practitioners involved, whether it's for hetero couples or non-hetero couples or partners, that we are able to bring in our own spiritual beliefs, our own spiritual calls into an in vitro situation, into a donor egg situation. That I do believe can be very sacred and is sacred, because these babies, I do believe the babies choose. I treated a 44-year-old second full-term child. She had previously had 8 miscarriages, 1 live birth. So this was her 10th gestation, and she came in to get the baby turned. Because it was transverse, it wasn't head down, and the baby was due in a few weeks, so that's why she came to me. And part of what came through for her was honoring the baby as her own, because it was an in vitro fertilization with a donor egg. And that was just amazing to see, because this baby, this beautiful little child, who was such a gorgeous child, spiritually, just this baby had all the ancestors. Like, they just showed up, like thousands of them, because they had her ancestors, her donor eggs ancestors, and her partner's sperms ancestors. And that baby was special. And the way he came in was like, look, like, you have to accept me. Like, I'm yours. Clearly I came for you, through you, for this, or I wouldn't be here. Look how much you had to go through. Look how many processes and machines and people and money, etc., to get me here. I chose this, and I chose to come like this. So it's time for you to welcome me. I give me permission to be yours. And that night the baby turned. We could do moksha and we'll learn about that, but so much of this is spiritual. These spiritual agreements, you can't fake that stuff. You know, I can't make these stories up, right? So everybody needs to have a yes. All modalities can create sacred space, and when it comes to the ceremonies, I am a ceremonialist, and I create my own ceremonies based on my upbringing, which was in Mexica tradition and my grandmother's Southwest indigenous tradition, as well as Catholicism, right? Like, ceremonies come from our own understanding of what ceremony is and what we're able to reclaim post-colonial, and so much of it lives in us. But I encourage everyone who is in the desire of consciously creating life to look to their own ancestry. Look, study it, see what conscious conception looks like in that. And if you can't find that, go in, tune in. What do I need at my creation ceremony? Do I need my partner and chocolate? Do I need specific tea? Do I want a plant journey? Do I need specific medicine? Are we going to sit and look at each other and say, come baby, or whatever it is? And it's specific to you and specific to your ancestry. So I encourage you to research different ways of calling in sacred star seed to your body vessels, and then surrender. So this is really thick, this information, these new ways of looking at things, and this is like come from my own journey in working with people, and in working in fertility and conception, where I've had a lot of success working with fertility and conception. I think working on the mental, emotional, spiritual, and physical realms. So I'm going to end this video here, and your next video is going to be talking about the more, the less abstract spiritual consciousness pieces of preparing to receive life into your body vessel. All right, thank you.
Wait on